Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn. It is Food for Thought Friday, and man, I'm so honored that you would join us. And maybe you've had a tough week, just been really, really challenging, and you're just like, you know what, Greg, I'm on fumes. I'm mentally tired. I'm emotionally spent. Physically, I'm tired. I'm just, as a friend of mine in Eastern Kentucky says, Greg, I'm just tarred, you know? Oh, man. And you know what? Hey, been there. But I hope today when we're done here in about 14 minutes, you're going to be like, you know what? My tank is full. And man, I'm ready to seize the day. And I'm so thankful that it tells us in Lamentations chapter 3, verses 22 and 23, that God's mercies are new every morning, and great is his faithfulness. In other words, friends, God's saying, hey, I'm going to help you get a fresh start every 24 hours. And I'm thankful that God is with us. And I love in verse 24 there in Lamentations chapter 3, right after that, it says that there is hope because of God's mercies, and that he's with us, and that that's where my hope is, and that knowing that God's going to show up today. So maybe you want to write those three verses, Lamentations 3 verses 22 through 24, on a post-it note and read that throughout the day and know that God is with you. Well, I love sharing things that God has spoke to me throughout the week, whether it's through my quiet time or whether it's through a devotional book, a conversation through prayer, or just, social media is amazing. Like anything, there's good things about it, and then there's not so good things about it. But one of my favorite places to follow on social media that fills my tank is Mindful Christianity. And you probably heard me share about it on Food for Thought Friday several times, because it really does help keep me hopeful when I'm a little hopeless. But I love this thing they posted recently, and it came from a Anchored in Peace devotional book that they produced. It says, things that you don't need to carry today. Your future, God already holds it. Your past, because it's forgiven. You can be healed. And most of all, no friends, you are redeemed because of Jesus. Your worth. You are deeply loved by the God of the universe, the very one that gave you breath this morning. You are deeply loved, and it's beyond measure, friends. God's not using a measuring stick like we use quite often as humans, just measuring on how much we're going to love somebody and what that's like. I'm so thankful for that, man, to know that his love for me is so deep and it's beyond measure. Another thing you don't need to carry today is your calling. God, what's my calling today? Just know, friends, you were created on purpose and for a purpose. And, sometimes, especially if I'm tired mentally, physically, emotionally, I just simply pray, God, show me where you're working in this 24-hour period. I'm overwhelmed by what the next week has, maybe the next month, maybe, next 5 years. But you know what? God's like saying, you know what, Greg? Hey, let's just walk hand in hand. Let's do life together for this 24-hour period. And no, there's nothing that's going to go on in your life that I'm not going to be with you, and that I'm not going to help you, and that I'm the God of the mountaintop, and that I'm the God of the valley. And friends, I want you to know that God sees you today, and he knows you. And in this very moment, God is faithful. And friends, he will care for you today. He will. Philippians chapter 4, verse 19 says, and my God shall supply all my needs through his riches in Christ Jesus. Friends, that could be a monetary need, but it could be just encouragement and just some hope, and just kind of one of those things where you feel like Jesus, just give me a big hug. Sometimes even us guys, we just need a big hug. That's one of the great things about sports and, basketball, football, and man, a big play, they celebrate and high five and hug and things. And, man, sometimes you just need a hug from Jesus. And God just does that sometimes when we need one. I love Eugene Peterson. He actually was the one that put together the Message Bible, and he's written some other good books. He wrote one on the book of Jeremiah. Drawing a blank, something about horses, because it reminded me of Central Kentucky, and something about watching the horses run or something. But preached on the book of Jeremiah last summer at Garden Christian Church, and somebody recommended his book on the book of Jeremiah. And, it was really, really good. But Eugene Peterson challenged me with this quote recently. He said, "Worship is the strategy by which we interrupt our preoccupation with ourselves and we attend to the presence of God." That's so good. Worship is a strategy by which we interrupt our preoccupation with ourselves and attend to the presence of God. You know, friends, I need to be reminded of that. You know, sometimes I just need to worship God for who He is and not because I need to ask for His help. And, you know, I can forget that sometimes, friends. I really can. Just to worship Him for who He is and not what He can do for us. And, you know, for some of you may be like, well, you know, wow, Greg, that's pretty powerful and deep. And, you know, it may not be an issue for you. But doing ministry now for almost 25 years, I know for a lot of people it is, friends. That, you know, they just to be with God, so many times it's just, you know, you're coming to God asking. As some people say, we treat God like it's an ATM machine. We're just, you know, making withdrawals, okay? Or I dream a genie, you know, rubbing the bottle, making a wish, asking for His help. And when I read that, I just said, you know what? Man, I worship You, God. I love You, God. Thank You for Jesus. And, you know, that can be hard when you're going through a rough time. But I want to encourage you just to worship Him for who He is because of how much He loves you, friends. I like this quote I saw from Salt and Light on social media. It says, "If it broke you but brought you closer to God, it wasn't loss, it was alignment." Wow, that's so good. If it broke you but brought you closer to God, it wasn't loss, it was alignment. You know, friends, that flood, that bankruptcy, losing my business, losing my home, and unexpected my marriage in a 24-hour period, yeah, man, it about took me under. It literally did break me. But God put the broken pieces of my life back together. And then fast forward in 2017, I was led to start Hope is Here ministry because I could have died by suicide with the thoughts that I had in 2001. And when I had 3 friends die by suicide within a little over a year period of time, and all of them had faith. I mean, they knew Jesus, but they bought into the lies of the enemy and the wounds in their heart, and they just gave up and they checked out. And one of them left 2 precious young children behind. And I just said, somebody's got to start talking about this. And friends, I found out, you know, when life breaks you, okay, that Jesus is there to help you pick up the broken pieces and put your life back together. He did it for me, and we've shared hundreds of stories on Hope is Here over the years. Man, I just encourage you to go to our website, hopeisheretoday.org, and just listen. 90% of the time we have probably 95% of the time we have a guest on Wednesday and Fridays. Wednesdays and Thursdays programs, just sharing how God helped them overcome a broken season of life. Everything from addiction to suicidal thoughts, okay, to divorce, to financial challenges, different forms of addiction, alcohol, drugs, pornography, you know, credit card debt, from child abuse, okay, domestic violence. I mean, the list goes on and on of people who share how God just helped them walk out of an incredibly painful season of life when they were broken. And you know, Jesus, man, He specializes in help us when we're broken and putting the broken pieces of our life back together again. Aren't you thankful for that today? Friends, I know I am. Louis Giglio said, "Your life is changing as the love of God explodes in your heart, tearing down walls that you've built to protect yourself and building up confidence and faith in a God who is for you." Wow, that's so good. Share it again. Louis Giglio, a pastor in the Atlanta, Georgia area, said, "Your life is changing as the love of God explodes in your heart, tearing down walls that you have built to protect yourself and building up confidence and faith in a God who is for you." Friends, I'm so thankful for that God does that and how much He loves us and helps us and just builds us up as we put our confidence and our faith in him, and especially when we understand that God is for us. Greg Laurie, a wonderful pastor out in the Southern California area. I love following him on social media. He said, faith and worry cannot exist. One chases out the other. Do you know people who can't get along? Maybe you want to invite one of them to your house, but you're hesitant to invite the other because there's always conflict between the two of them. You know, faith and worry have the same type of relationship. Where there's worry, there's no place for faith. Faith is driven out by worry, and worry is driven out by faith. The Apostle Paul wrote this in Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Tell God what you need and thank him for all he has already done. Then you will experience God's peace, which exceeds anything that we can understand. His peace will then guard your hearts and your minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Oh, friends, that's such a good word in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Don't worry about anything. Instead, pray about everything. Remind you, prayer is a conversation between you and God. Tell God what you need, but also thank him for all he has done, and thank him that he's going to help you through this situation, through this storm in your life. Walk through this deep valley as you're climbing out of it, getting back on the mountaintop. And then when you do that, friends, then you're going to experience God's peace, which exceeds anything we can understand, friends. It doesn't make any kind of sense how God can provide peace in some of the most difficult storms in life. His peace will guard your hearts and minds as you live in Christ Jesus. Aren't you thankful that today, friends? Man, I know I am. Henry Cloud wrote one of my favorite books, Necessary Endings. Henry Cloud wrote, people-pleasing is like setting yourself on fire to help keep other people warm. That's pretty good, friends. Let's share that again. Henry Cloud. People-pleasing is like setting yourself on fire to help keep other people warm. Oh, friends, I love that. You know, I want to encourage you to just kind of look, say, hey, you know, is there an area that I'm just totally being a people pleaser? And I laugh at friends because, man, I could start a people pleasing support group. Oh, my goodness. It's taken me a lot over the years, and I still got a long way to go. But, man, as the old saying goes, thank God I'm not where I used to be. I've learned to just tell people, hey, you know, I'm really sorry, but I can't do that right now. Instead of saying yes and sometimes just overcrowding my schedule, and then I get fatigued and worn out and sick and kind of get, resentful. And so, one of the powerful words sometimes you can use, it's only 2 letters, but it's powerful, is no. Now, I know for some of you that are people pleasers like me, I like to call myself a recovering people pleaser, okay, is that instead of just saying no, because that sounds a little harsh to say, I'm sorry I can't do that right now, but ask me again in the future. And I've learned to do that, and sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and that's okay. But I'm just so thankful to know that, you find out when you do tell people no, and that you find out who your real friends are, if they love you, if it's, unconditional love or it's conditional love. So I want to encourage you today to just kind of look and say, hey, am I being too much of a people pleaser? Well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but you've been blessed by this program. I hope you'll share it with somebody else. Thanks for listening. I want to remind you we also have a YouTube channel that most of our programs are on. And I hope you'll go to YouTube and look up Hope is Here. My name, Greg Horn, H-O-R-N. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share it with somebody if you've been blessed by today's program. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday. My name's Greg Horn, and this is Hope is Here.